Hey, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you have any suggestions or roommate problems you want to talk about with us, let us know at worshipandtributenerd@gmail.com. Now onward to the video with Robert Pasbani from Metal Injection.
Worship and Tribute Nerd!
Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Michael, aka Rickshaw, and welcome to Worship and Tribute Nerd. Today we have an old friend. We've worked together before in the past. It's been a long time, really.
Yeah, I guess it really has been. Kind of lose count after a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's more and more people I talk to that I realize it's been like a fucking decade since I've talked to them in any capacity. So, say hello, Rob from Metal Injection.
Hello, Rob from Metal Injection.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I mean, all things considered, I'm alive, so that's very good. I'm living.
Yeah.
Have my health.
Right. Where are you located?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, so I'm located in Texas, so you know it's not as harsh here with like our restrictions and things like that.
Yeah.
Are they still pretty strict up there?
Yeah. I mean, really, the only thing that's open is takeout spots and supermarkets and like hardware stores or bodegas, but otherwise, like everything else is closed. So there's really nothing to do other than go on walks. Which
right. I've been trying to take. So I have two doggies. One's a puppy and one's 10 years old. And because of the coronavirus, there's no yard maintenance lately. So there's stickers all over the place. So it's like, the puppy doesn't want to go anywhere. He's like, I'm not your bitch. I don't want to fucking be on a leash because he's never done it before. And then the other doggy just wants to run in stickers. So it's like I can't even go on walks. So
you mean like literal stickers?
Yeah, like in the grass, the little they'll like stick to their fur, like burrs.
I see.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like children's stickers.
No. So I've been like, yeah, I want to go for a walk, but then I'm like, well, the doggies can't even go for a walk, so I'll just stay in with the doggies. So I'm getting real pale. So
yeah, I mean, it's about like I'm a big fan of the beach, and it looks like the beaches aren't going to be open this summer. Which I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But like, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like
this year is over.
Yeah, exactly. I had Deftones tickets for a show with like September, August, September, something like that. Just announced that one's postponed too, so I'm pretty bummed. Deftones is like my favorite band in the world, so I was like, hopefully they're still coming. So
yeah, they had a rooftop show scheduled in New York, which I was very excited about. It's nothing better than an outdoor show in the summer, which is, here in New York, we have a limited window. And I was really looking forward to that. And I also had tickets to the Rage Against the Machine reunion, but then, there was 3 weeks where I just had to come to terms, look, either the show is not happening or I'm not going to the show, one way or the other.
Right.
It's like, I am not going to get to experience it this summer, which was a big bummer.
Honestly, that trumps my Deftones tickets, man. Because I know the Deftones are going to keep doing it, but who knows if Rage will.
Right. Well, they rescheduled to next year, so hopefully that still works out.
Cool.
So hopefully there'll be a next year.
All right. Well, Rob, you're in Metal Injection. We've talked in the past. You've worked with I Wrestled a Bear once. You did like a little guest spot on like a choose your own adventure video we did where me and Mikey.
Oh, that's right.
Me and Mikey turned out to be juggalos in that one. If you choose the right path, since the band ended, I don't really know the capacity of what Metal Injection has done or like its reach via social media or YouTube and like stuff like that. So explain what all Metal Injection has evolved to since I was in the music industry.
Sure. I mean, well, this is our 16th year, 2020, which is just like, what the fuck is going on? I've spent half my life doing this, what's going on? I mean, less than half my life, but,
right.
Half of my adult life, I would say,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 36, so there's 20 years of my life where I haven't done it, but pretty soon, 4 years, it's going to be half my life.
Right.
But then I'll also be 40, which is a bummer.
Oh, it's coming
But
for me, buddy.
no, I mean, things have been going well. Basically, every year has been business-wise better than the last, and we've just been growing, and we've kind of evolved into a kind of like a news aggregate / video. Like we still do the video stuff; it's still a big part of what we do. But then also just like with everything being more mobile and everything being more consumable, it's just like, we've kind of transformed into also a bit of a news source and just like a social media source, and also just like a bit of a distraction as well. Like we always try to balance just the latest news and, new songs from bands and posting about underground bands. And then also just like one thing I'm a big proponent of is just kind of like mindless fun, I would say. Whether it's just like a set of memes or a cool cover or a fun video clip of a granny rocking out to a metal band, something to just like distract you for a few seconds in the bleakness of the day.
Yeah.
And bring
Yeah.
you a smile. So yeah, we've just been doing that, and last year was our 15th year anniversary, and we did a bunch of reflection, and we did Frank, my partner, put together like a anniversary show, and there was this really cool cover set with a bunch of cool people that came out, like Ben Myron from Dillinger Escape Plan, Alex Holt from Testament.
Cool.
All these dudes came out and did some covers, and I got up and I did a Beastie Boys cover, which was really fun and kind of intimidating at first. Because what am I doing on the stage? And like, I hope I don't make a total ass of myself. But other than that, my day kind of consists of just sitting at my desk for about 8 to 10 hours, and just following the news cycle and answering 100 emails. I mean, I don't answer 100 emails a day, but I get over 100 emails a day.
Right. Well, shit, man. That's. I mean, it sounds fun and like.
Closer to like 200, really. But
Yeah. So, I mean, so you are on top of a lot of metal news still, and so
yeah,
how do you feel? Especially since I was in I Wrestled Bear once. I was a decade ago. At this point. But like, how do you feel that metal has changed like since that? You know what I mean? Since that era, like with the new metal coming out, because like for me, of course, I was in like such an ADD band, like to where now I listen to a lot of the newer bands and I really just can't get into it. I respect it, but it just doesn't feel the same to me. How do you feel about it?
I think that's kind of you're like over discovering new bands,
right?
You've like figured out what you like and you just want to listen to what you like. I think metal has changed a lot in the 15 years. Like when we started, YouTube didn't even exist.
Yeah,
it didn't really come around until about a year or two after we started. So like we've had to, there have been many ways that like as a website and a company that we've transformed over the last 16 years, just because you have to kind of adapt to what the internet is. Like we were initially primarily a video thing, and then we kept, we always had a little bit of news, but slowly we realized like, oh, that's the stuff that it's kind of like it takes much longer to produce a high quality video than it does to write up a news article. So we should put a little more focus on the news stuff too. And then that kind of became where the traffic went. But as far as bands and stuff, all bets are off now. Like there's no genres. There's like everyone's like mixing and switching stuff up, and it is a little challenging for me to like look for new music. I know like this partner, my buddy Frank, he was all about it. For me, it's like I'm kind of closer to what you're saying, but the thing is, we have a ton of writers who are really passionate about music and finding new stuff, and I kind of lean on them for the newer stuff, and like I know what I'm good at, which is like focusing on the bigger bands and like the bigger stories and stuff like that, and sillier stuff, and that's kind of what I focus on, and also the ad side of the business of like selling ads and optimizing everything and making sure we're bringing in some revenue, which especially now is much tougher.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm coming from a standpoint of a YouTube that's not even monetized yet, so I'm still learning and trying to come up with new ways to do what I do, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
as of right now, it's just, kind of like this. We talk a little bit about what the person does, and then we dive into what nerdy things they love personally, and that's really what I wanted to start. I wanted to start something that was just like, let's just see how nerdy a person can be, even if you're like this tough dude doing vocals on stage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I say that I'm retired now, but that's what musicians that can't tour anymore say. But I collect action figures and shit like that, and comics and stuff like that. So yeah, let's get into that. Like, since this coronavirus is like postponing tours and stuff like that, what have you been doing? Like, what movies have you been into? What do you read comics? For me, my number one thing of all time is like X-Men comics. So let's hear it.
My big nerdy thing is I love pro wrestling. And
Nice.
I'm not really much of a collector
Uh-huh.
because I kind of grew up poor, and so I could never afford to be a collector. So I never really developed that desire to like hoard like merch.
Things, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not judging at all. Like I'm a digital hoarder
Right.
for sure. But yeah, so I was always a big fan of wrestling. That was my big nerdy thing, and that was kind of like what shaped my other nerdery.
Yeah,
It's kind of like how I got into everything else. It's I've been into it since like I can remember. Like my parents got me into it when I was a little baby, and then through that I kind of got into web design just because like to learn. Like I was curious about always having my own website, and like my first website was a wrestling website, and then like I kind of started taking it seriously, and then it developed into kind of like the thing I ended up having like a career from until Metal Injection happened, and I started doing that full time.
Right.
And also it's how I got into metal, just through wrestler theme songs, and like just a few guys had either actual metal songs or sound alikes, and then that's kind of how I got curious about the bands and got into metal. So, which all kind of landed me here, where I now run a metal website full time, my job. But yeah, so I spend most of my time like, well, it kind of sucks now because with the quarantine, there's no like crowds, but wrestling is like the only thing that's still kept going throughout the quarantine.
Without the crowds.
Which is crazy, but like without the crowds, it's really sad. It's really not the same. And like it just kind of like beats you over the head with the fact that like, there's a fucking pandemic happening and these people are still working for some reason when everyone else isn't. But before that, I would watch a shit ton of wrestling, especially Japanese wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling is my favorite, and I really want to. I was planning on doing a trip sometime this summer to Japan. It's something I've wanted to do for a really long time, but obviously that's not going to happen. Hopefully next year, or who knows? Who knows when?
Yeah, no shit.
But I really want to go to Japan, and I'm really into New Japan Pro Wrestling specifically. And if I was I just subconsciously realized I like collect New Japan merch. Like I have just these tiny tchotchkes. Like I have this one wrestler, the Great Muda, and I just have like of all the things that I do have other than metal shirts, it's like New Japan merch is the thing I have the most of.
Nice.
Just by not like I was intentionally like I need to have all of it. It's just like, oh, I picked that up, and then I'm just like, oh, look at this little collection I have.
Right. What was the era of wrestling that was like your favorite? Because for me personally, I used to be into wrestling pretty heavily, but it was like the Attitude Era. You know what I mean? Like the NWO and the Sting dropping from the rafters and shit. What was your favorite?
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
The like 97 to 2001, and of that stuff, I would say ECW was my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it was like the more underground. It was like it kind of rewarded you for being a longtime fan, just because there was a lot more meta references, and like they were shitting on the other companies, which the other companies pretended like nobody else existed outside of their universe.
Yeah.
So it was more fan oriented and kind of like underground, and I really liked it. And that was my favorite until like most recently, like the last 3 or 4 years has been my favorite era, because with the internet and like on demand network, like there's a WWE network now, and then it's how I got into Japanese wrestling is they started their own over the top network. And before that, I didn't really have a way to like regularly watch it. It was, you could find it. You'd go to like IRC rooms or whatever, like my friends were into it, but it just was too challenging for me to get into. But because of that, I got into it, and it was just like, this is the best shit I've ever seen. Like this blows away anything I've ever seen. And it's so good. And it's like some of the stuff was truly better than like any movie or whatever in terms of like entertainment value and time I put in. It was like, wow, this was such a rewarding watch that I'm so glad I'm into this. And nobody knows about it, except for like it's a very niche thing.
Right.
But now it's kind of exploded a little bit.
Yeah. One of the things that like if I'm interviewing someone and they can't really, they're like, man, I don't know. It seems like if they don't know their like main nerdiness, they always end up being like, well, I have been watching a lot of reality TV. I like The Bachelor, and I'm like, how the hell did we get to you watching The Bachelor? But anyways, like I've always been like, every person that I know that watches The Bachelor, I'm like, yeah, let's take that story, write it down on paper, and then let's fight them at the end of it and call it wrestling. I would much rather watch, like my mindless entertainment is definitely like something like wrestling rather than watching pretty people live on an island and fight. You know what I mean?
Well, reality TV is absolutely wrestling. Like, the other thing is like from spending like 30 years watching pro wrestling.
Yeah,
everything is pro wrestling.
Yeah,
like politics is pro wrestling. Right? Trump is like the ultimate bad guy, the ultimate heel, and like everything is, and like reality TV, especially like you said, it's all the wrestling without the match at the end. But sometimes they do have, like on the competitive shows, that's absolutely written like a wrestling match would be written. Like on those like food shows or whatever. But like, so I totally feel that, and it does humor me. Like I think Star Wars is wrestling. It's like written like a wrestling feud.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Wrestling is definitely my main nerdery. And then other than that, I've been rewatching like kind of old movies, like old favorites and things I never gave too much of a shot. Like I slowly, finally watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy because I could never get through it. And also because, like, in my opinion, the end of the first one is like such a nothing that I'm just like, wait, I spent 3 hours and they just get to the top of a mountain. That's that. Like, it felt so unsatisfying to me. So it was like, I don't know if I can commit another 7 hours, but I ended up kind of watching it more like a mini series than a set of movies. So I wouldn't sit and watch the whole 3 hours. I'd watch like an hour and a half, and then I'd be like, all right, I need something else. And then like when it would hit like a transition point, I would stop it. And it was so much more satisfying that way because like you don't want to feel drained or like you're forcing yourself to watch entertainment.
Dude, I mean, it's tough. It's like, the thing is, like, you could binge watch a whole show and it wouldn't feel as grueling as one of the Lord of the Ring movies because it is pretty uneventful. And like Randall from Clerks is like, all that was fucking walking. You know what I mean? And it's like, he's kind of right. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, and we even had a debate.
There were some cool battles, but like,
they were like, we've covered Star Wars because Star Wars Day was recently, and we just binge watched the whole series and just did 3 parts, old trilogy, prequels, and new trilogy as a thing. And at the end of it, they were like, well, like Star Wars isn't the greatest things. Lord of the Rings, I would put above it. I was like, I have beef with that, dude. Like, the movies were so boring. Like, you could say that it was better than Star Wars as a literature, but not as, like, film. Like, as film.
Yeah, I'm not even, like, that big on either.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a big Star Wars guy, and like, truthfully, the like fandom,
Yeah.
like sometimes I'm like troubled by it.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a corporate entity. Like,
Yeah.
relax. Like,
Yeah.
don't base your life on it. But like the original trilogy, like I love. Like, you can't like those. Those were just really fun movies.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen. I've only seen. I've seen all the sequels, but I've only seen episode 3 of the prequels. I don't really.
Right.
But I would totally agree that Star Wars, just in terms of like how engaged I was, and like just the like scene to walking ratio, blows it away.
Yeah.
Like there's very epic fight scenes in
Right.
especially in the last Lord of the Rings movie.
Mhm.
But like, meh.
Yeah.
Especially now that we have Game of Thrones. Like seeing Game of Thrones before watching Lord of the Rings definitely
Right.
took away some of the muster of it, because like it's so much more satisfying in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and it's like sleek and sexy and like, adventurous, and I feel like when you watch the Lord of the Rings movies at this point, knowing what we know about everything else, it's kind of bland, in a way.
Yeah.
So but I've never liked medieval things unless it was like with naked chicks and stuff like that. like heavy metal or something, the cartoon.
Yeah.
It's got this allure and style. It's like kind of corny and shitty, but the sexiness is cool.
Yeah, I guess it is pretty Disneyed, the Lord of the Rings. Like there isn't like
Right. Yeah.
dirtiness to it or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty G-rated.
Going back to wrestling, were you ever a gamer?
Yeah, like as a kid, I definitely
What's your favorite?
was a big.
What's your favorite N64 wrestling game? I'm going to be very specific.
I did not have an N64.
Oof.
I kind of. I had a Genesis.
Uh-huh.
I had a Game Gear and a Game Boy, and then like once the next gen once the N64 came out, it was like at that point where that's when I got a computer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was just like, I'm over video games.
Right.
So I kind of fell off. But I really, and really even still, like I have a PlayStation 4, but I always find myself playing the retro games, like getting the Sega pack with the 30 games, or like they remade Sonic. They upscaled it to the PS4, and it's awesome. It's the old game, just in HD.
Yeah, that's what I want more of that. I want more let's make a modern game, but then in the style of like Super Nintendo. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but yeah, Sonic was definitely my jam. And but as far as my favorite wrestling game, it would have been WrestleMania, the arcade game, which was it was the Acclaim, I think it was the Mortal Kombat engine, maybe.
Okay.
But with a wrestling skin on top of it, so nice. It was really fun.
Hell yeah! The only reason I bring up N64 is because I recently have acquired my brother's N64.
Oh, but I will say my best friend had an N64, and we played GoldenEye all the time.
Oh, okay.
So that was
tight.
I guess now that if I had to decide on what my favorite,
right.
do that.
But I acquired my brother's N64 and started thinking about what games can I get for it, and every person I know that's a wrestling fan is like,
oh, No Mercy,
No Mercy, or NWO Revenge.
Revenge.
Yeah. So
I never played WCW NWO Revenge, but I did play No Mercy, which was an awesome game.
Yeah,
but it was also at the point where I played it 3 or 4 times. I never
true.
spent 50 hours, 60 hours with it.
Yeah, I never owned it, or I think I played it once or something when I was a kid. But that game holds up so well. Me and a buddy went through 60 rounds. It was 60 people of the Royal Rumble, right?
Oh yeah.
We literally played 60 eliminations, and we were just like, do you want to play again? That was so great. Especially, they would have the costumes of old school era, and then the Attitude Era, and then the oldest, and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely had the best roster too in terms of that stuff. It's kind of a bummer because I feel like the 2K games are they're all right.
Uh-huh.
I always lose interest really quickly. I'll play maybe 5 matches, and I'm like, all right. And I never go back to it. I never have the desire to go back to it. I think the reason is that the controls are just like, they need to be easier, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Keep it simple, you know.
Yeah.
But back to metal. Oh, hold on, my puppy's having a nightmare.
Oh no.
But anyways, do you have any pets?
I do. I have a 2.5-year-old Shiba Inu Jindo mix, and me and her have the same relationship that your two puppies has, where she hates me, but then she will come up to me and like cuddle,
Right.
at night or whatever. But otherwise, I'm not allowed to pet her except in certain areas of the house. She's very stubborn, but adorable. So I love her.
That's awesome. So, you being so close to metal, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with metal moving forward? You know what I mean? Like,
It's really a scary time. A lot of people are really fucked right now because metal makes its money on the road. There's only so many record sales. Everything is about the live experience, and you can't do that right now, and you won't really be able to do it for a year. And even like it's from the top down, everyone's affected. Like we were affected. We lost essentially 90% of our advertising because it's all typically for live shows, and there's no live shows, so there's no advertising. So honestly, I really don't know what the fuck is going to happen.
yeah, dude.
I hope these venues are taken care of. I have a few friends who own these venues, and they're struggling, and they're doing fundraisers. I would say try to support your local venues, buy some merch from them or whatever. And like, just as much these bands aren't working either. So I don't know. I think we're going to see a very different metal scene on the other side of this, where a lot of bands might not be touring as much. There might not even be touring. And really, like, anytime I start to think about this, it really like goes down this like depressing hole. And I just try to say like, well, you know what? You can't really predict what's going to happen 2 months from now. So take it one step at a time.
Yeah, I was talking to some friends, and they were like, dude, it's never going to be the same. People are never going to go to shows like they used to. People are never going to go to movies like they used to and stuff like that. Do you think that's true, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I question how I will feel comfortable at shows, like if it happens before there's a vaccine, or even if there is a vaccine, who knows if everyone takes the vaccine? What about the people that don't have the vaccine? Can we still infect people that do have it? And, like, I don't know. It's honestly, anytime I think about it, I'm like, there's so many more important things to think about before that, that like, no point in wasting energy considering it yet. That's just my outlook on it.
Yeah, I feel you. Anything else, super nerdy before we take off?
The wrestling stuff is the most of it. I'm a big nerd about comedy. I like, for example, like the New York alt comedy scene, kind of like with John Mulaney, Nick Kroll, like those kind of guys.
Oh yeah,
big SNL nerd, even though it's terrible this year. Yeah, I guess mostly comedy and metal, wrestling, and I guess wheat. I'm a big pothead.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you go to a lot of comedy shows out there? Whenever minus the quarantine.
I used to be. I used to go a lot. I was very lucky. About 5 to 10 years ago, really, there was a really budding comedy scene. Like all these guys, all the people that are like really famous comedians now were just kind of coming up. So they were super hungry. So there were always all these like really cheap shows with great talent. Like in addition to the ones I made, like Kumail Nanjiani, Sarah Silverman, all these like really talented people, like always around doing all these really fun shows. And it's like, how did I only spend, $5-10 on this? So I definitely went to a ton. Like I went to hundreds of shows a year, and then I feel like once I kind of hit my mid-30s, it takes like a lot more effort for me to want to leave the house.
Right. Yeah. No, I feel
So
you.
I've kind of for the most part retired from going to shows in the last few years. But because of this thing, I'm having dreams about going to shows. Like I'm dying to go to a show. I feel like I'm eating my words because I really, really miss it. I miss just the camaraderie, just hanging out with your friends at a show.
Right. Having a beer, jamming some tunes. I have done, like, at the beginning of this year, I'd done a couple of comedy sets, and it was, like, super nerve-wracking for me. Especially if you've never done it before. It's like when you play your first show. It's just, like, adrenaline the whole time, and then you're like, what happened? I don't even know what I said or whatever.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do it. I've been telling myself I want to do it for a while, but I've very much been procrastinating just because I'm a pussy.
Right.
There's no reason I can't do it, but I'm just like, it's so weird. Like, I feel because I was a little more naive about show business and everything when Metal Injection first started, I had way more confidence and like lack of caring about making a fool of myself. Whereas now I'm so much more like self-aware, and like I feel like I have way more self-doubt than I did when I was like 15 years younger.
We live in a scary time. You say the wrong thing and you're just done.
Right. That's the other thing. Is like I don't want to be a comedian that I think is shitty, that I like mock. Like I don't want to be a Carlos Mencia type of comedian. Like that. Like that's like my like a hack kind of thing. Like so that's kind of what, I'm not going to do it. Like get too lost in my head, and
I thought it was funny too that I did have a couple of jokes that were associated with metal, and it was like those were like the least laughs, because it was like, obviously if you make a joke, in a sense, you have to be into metal to understand how the punchline works, because it was like I think it was like everybody, when normal people hear metal, they're like, why are they so mad? Meanwhile, you go home and you listen to Chris Brown while you're on the treadmill, someone who actually beats their girlfriend. You know what I mean? And people were like, huh? Chris Brown did what? And I'm like, okay, never mind, we'll move on past it. Cool, man. I really appreciate it. And like I said, thanks for taking the time out of your day to do something like this.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
And, everyone who's watching, if you could like and subscribe and leave us a comment. What kind of comment do we want?
Leave us a comment with your favorite pro wrestler. How about that?
Yeah. Favorite pro wrestler? Mine is Macho Man. What about you?
My all-time favorite pro wrestler would be Shawn Michaels. The Heartbreak Kid.
Nice.
Big Macho Man fan myself.
I have some friends interested in like maybe seeing if this is real someday. It's hard to talk about right now, but like a wrestling themed sandwich place, right? The number one thing on the menu would be the Macho Ham Randy sandwich.
I love it.
And the Hulk Hoagie. We have a whole, we have a whole list of them. So we have the Kane Club. Stuff like that.
I love it.
But anyways, it's been a fun talk, and leave us a comment, leave us your favorite wrestler, and subscribe, do all that bullshit, and we'll see you later, nerds.